Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something real right now. If you want to elevate your life, change your story, and fulfill the dream you've been carrying in your heart for years, there are 10 things you absolutely must work on every single day. Not once a week, not when you feel like it, every single day. Consistency and self-discipline shapes the direction of your life. It's not talent, luck, or even opportunity that defines a person's success. It's what they do every single day, especially when no one is watching. You could be the most gifted individual in the world, but if you lack discipline, your gift will remain buried under bad habits, laziness, and excuses. Discipline is what builds structure in chaos. It gives your day a backbone, a rhythm, a sense of purpose. When you wake up and choose to stick to the habits you've promised yourself, even when you don't feel like it, you're sending a message to your mind that your future matters more than your feelings. And the more you repeat that, the stronger that message becomes. Discipline, when repeated consistently, turns into a lifestyle. It's brushing your teeth in the dark, going to the gym when it's raining, reading a book when the world is scrolling through distractions, choosing water over soda, prayer over panic, action over procrastination. Every time you follow through on a commitment you've made to yourself, you're not just getting closer to a goal, you're building trust with your own spirit. You're training your brain to believe that what you say, you will do. And that belief becomes power. It becomes your edge. Because in a world full of talkers, the doers, the ones who act with discipline, will always rise. Consistency and discipline is not about being rigid or robotic. It's about setting non-negotiables for yourself. It's about drawing a line and saying, this is who I am and this is what I do. Whether it's waking up early, eating clean, working on your business, praying, or reading scripture. Whatever matters to your personal growth requires a routine, a commitment, a rhythm. You can't go hard one day and quit for a week and expect results. That's not how greatness is built. Greatness is forged in the fire of repetition, persistence, and sacrifice. There will be days when it feels pointless, days when your results don't show up fast enough, days when distractions scream louder than discipline. But those are the exact days that matter the most. That's where the transformation happens. That's when you prove to yourself that you're not led by moods, but by mission. The difference between where you are and where you want to be lies in the discipline you build every day. People love to say stay motivated, but motivation fades. It's not reliable. It comes and goes like the wind. Discipline stays. Discipline shows up when motivation is nowhere to be found. Discipline works in silence, behind closed doors, away from applause. It doesn't crave attention. It craves results. And when you pair discipline with consistency, you create unstoppable momentum. You start moving with purpose instead of pressure. You start living on your terms, not reacting to life, but designing it day by day, action by action, with clarity and courage. Gratitude realigns your mindset with positivity and purpose. It has the power to shift your entire perspective without changing a single external condition in your life. When you begin your day with thankfulness, you're telling the universe, and more importantly yourself, that you recognize the value in what you already have. You stop focusing on what's missing and start acknowledging what's present. It doesn't mean ignoring your struggles or pretending life is perfect. It means choosing to see the light even when darkness tries to surround you. A grateful heart isn't weak, it's strong, because gratitude requires awareness, humility, and the willingness to pause and appreciate. And in today's world where everything moves fast and comparison runs wild, gratitude becomes a grounding force. It silences the voice that says you're behind, not enough, or lacking. Instead, it reminds you that you are already blessed in more ways than you count. People often wait for something big to happen before they feel thankful. A raise, a vacation, a new car. But gratitude isn't about the big moments. It's about the small ones. Waking up and breathing with ease. Having someone check on you. The roof over your head. The chance to start again. When you train your mind to notice the little things, the big things will come with even more meaning. Because you're already operating from a place of abundance, not lack. And when you live in abundance, you don't chase life, you attract it. Gratitude is magnetic. It brings more of what you appreciate into your world. You find that the more grateful you are, the more reasons you have to be grateful. It becomes a cycle that feeds itself. And in the middle of chaos or setbacks, it's gratitude that reminds you that everything is temporary. And growth is always happening, even when you can't see it right away. Gratitude also strengthens your relationships. When you appreciate people, when you express thanks for their presence, their support, their love, you nurture a bond that money can't buy. And it's not just saying thank you with words, but with presence, kindness, and time. When people feel appreciated, they give more. And when you appreciate yourself, your effort, your growth, your resilience, you give yourself permission to keep going. Gratitude doesn't make you complacent. It makes you hopeful. It's the voice that says, I may not be where I want to be, but thank God I'm not where I used to be. It fuels you with quiet confidence, not based on ego, but on understanding that you're already walking in purpose, even if it's not fully visible yet. When you make gratitude a daily habit, you begin to find joy in ordinary things. A smile becomes a gift. Silence becomes peace. A setback becomes a setup. You don't need everything to be perfect to feel blessed. You just need to be aware. That awareness becomes your strength, your protection against bitterness, stress, and fear. Gratitude teaches you how to live in the moment, not in your word. It pulls your focus away from what went wrong and puts it back on what's still going right. It becomes your reset, your reminder, your fuel for each new day. Network error occurred. Please check your connection and try again. If this issue persists, please contact us through our help center at help.openai.com. Faith fuels endurance when life feels like a storm. When everything around you is uncertain, when doors close unexpectedly, and when people turn their backs on you, it's faith that holds you together. Faith is not the absence of doubt. It's the decision to keep believing despite the doubt. It's the quiet strength that whispers, keep going, even when everything inside you wants to quit. Life will test you, not once or twice, but over and over again. You will face setbacks that shake your confidence, delays that make you question your timing, and failures that challenge your identity. But when your foundation is built on faith, you won't be moved by temporary circumstances. You begin to understand that just because things are hard doesn't mean you're off track. Sometimes the struggle is part of the process, and the delay is a setup for something greater. Faith is trusting that what's ahead of you is better than what's behind you. It's waking up with the belief that even if the plan doesn't make sense right now, it's still working for your good. You don't need to see the entire staircase to take the first step. You just need to believe that the next step will appear when it's time. Faith keeps you walking when logic tells you to stop. It pushes you to build even when the resources seem lacking. It teaches you to pray boldly, speak life over your situation, and act like your breakthrough is already on the way. And it's not always loud. Sometimes faith is just getting out of bed. Sometimes it's making that phone call. Sometimes it's writing down the vision even when the world calls it unrealistic. Faith makes you resilient. It gives you the strength to bounce back from failure and the courage to try again. People with faith don't have easier lives. They just don't let fear define their story. They move forward even with tears in their eyes because they know the pain has a purpose. Faith doesn't eliminate the storm, but it gives you peace in the middle of it. It becomes your anchor when the winds try to blow you off course. And as your faith grows, so does your patience. You stop rushing results and start trusting the process. You understand that God's timing is not your timing, but His is always perfect. Faith also gives you vision. It allows you to see what isn't there yet. You begin to speak things into existence. You carry yourself with confidence, not because you have all the answers, but because you know you're guided by something greater than yourself. People around you may not understand your journey, and that's okay. Faith doesn't need approval. It doesn't need to make sense to everyone. It just needs your agreement. Every great story ever written started with someone who believed in something they couldn't yet touch. Faith is the seed you plant in the dark, trusting that it will bloom in time. It is what turns pain into progress, dreams into reality, and obstacles into opportunity. Improvement begins with intentional daily reflection. In a world that's constantly pushing you forward, it's easy to get caught in the rush and forget to pause. But progress isn't just about movement. It's about direction. Without reflection, you can be running full speed in the wrong direction, chasing goals that aren't even aligned with your true purpose. Daily reflection gives you the clarity to understand where you are, how you're growing, and what needs to change. It allows you to be honest with yourself in a way that no outside voice ever could. You can't fix what you refuse to face, and you can't grow past what you never paused to notice. That's why taking time each day to sit with your thoughts, to assess your choices, your emotions, your mindset, is one of the most powerful things you can do for your future. Reflection is not about guilt or shame. It's not about beating yourself up for what went wrong. It's about learning. It's about asking the right questions. What did I do well today? Where did I fall short? What triggered my frustration? What gave me peace? What can I do better tomorrow? These questions don't just help you analyze, they help you evolve. Because growth isn't automatic. It requires awareness. If you keep repeating the same mistakes every day without learning from them, you're not growing, you're just going in circles. Reflection stops that cycle. It gives you the chance to interrupt patterns, to correct your course before you go too far in the wrong direction. Daily reflection also helps you reconnect with your why. It reminds you of your intentions, your values, your long-term goals. In the middle of your busy life, it's easy to forget why you started. But when you pause and reflect, you realign your actions with your purpose. You start living deliberately instead of drifting. You become more intentional with your time, your energy, your conversations. You stop letting the day run you and start taking control of how you show up. Reflection also strengthens emotional intelligence. You begin to understand yourself better. Your triggers, your patterns, your reactions. You gain more control over your thoughts and behaviors because you're no longer operating on autopilot. You become more present, more mindful, more in tune with your own humanity. And that spills over into how you treat others. When you reflect on your words, your actions, your tone, you become more thoughtful, more compassionate, more self-aware. That's how relationships improve. That's how leadership improves. That's how life improves. And reflection doesn't require hours. Just 10 minutes of stillness can shift your entire mindset. Whether it's writing in a journal, talking with God, or simply sitting in silence, that time becomes sacred. It's where insight is born, where healing begins, where ideas come alive. It's where you stop reacting and start responding. It's where wisdom grows. Because wisdom doesn't come from the experience alone. It comes from reflecting on the relationships require daily effort and meaningful connection. You can't build strong relationships on autopilot, and you can't expect people to feel valued if you don't show them they matter. Whether it's family, friends, a partner, or the people you work with, relationships thrive on consistency, presence, and communication. Too often we assume people know we care, But assumptions are not expressions. People need to hear it, feel it, and see it. Love that is not expressed becomes invisible. Support that is not spoken can feel absent. That's why investing in relationships daily is not optional, it's essential. A kind word, a check-in message, a 5-minute phone call, a shared moment of laughter. These small acts build connection, trust, and closeness over time. Relationships are like gardens. If you don't water them every day, they start to wither. You can't just show up when it's convenient or when you need something. Real relationships require you to be present, even when there's nothing to gain. They require effort, even when you're busy or tired. Sometimes it's about listening without trying to fix, being there without needing to speak, understanding someone's silence more than their words. It's about seeing the value in people, not for what they do, but for who they are. And that takes intention. That takes patience. That takes daily care. We live in a time when distractions are endless. Phones, work, social media, pressure, goals, so much noise pulling us away from connection. But if you're not careful, you'll look up one day and realize that the people you care about felt ignored. That's why you must make time for people. Look them in the eyes. Put down the phone. Have real conversations. Ask deeper questions. Give them the gift of your full attention. Presence is more powerful than perfection. People remember how you made them feel more than what you said. And they remember who showed up for them when it wasn't easy to do so. Daily relationship work also means being honest with yourself and others. It means speaking truth even when it's uncomfortable, setting boundaries when needed, apologizing when you're wrong, and choosing forgiveness when you've been hurt. It's not always smooth, but it's always worth it. Strong relationships aren't built on pretending everything is perfect. They're built on showing up in the mess, having the hard conversations, and choosing love anyway. It's about holding space for others and letting them hold space for you too. Gratitude plays a role here too. When you take time to appreciate the people in your life, when you acknowledge their impact, their kindness, their efforts, you build a bond that becomes unshakable. Relationships are not about grand gestures. They're about showing up day after day with love, respect, and intention. You don't have to be perfect to be present. You just have to care enough to keep trying. Over time, that daily effort becomes the foundation of something real, something deep, something lasting. Purpose-driven actions lead to long-term success. When you live each day with a sense of purpose, your actions begin to carry weight. You stop going through the motions and start moving with direction. Life becomes more than a routine. It becomes a mission. Every step you take, every decision you make starts to align with a bigger vision. That's the difference between simply being busy and actually being productive. Busyness can feel like movement, but without purpose, it leads nowhere. Purpose gives your actions meaning. It gives your work fulfillment. It gives your challenges context. When you know your why, you can endure anyhow. Purpose is what gets you out of bed on the days you feel tired, discouraged, or lost. It becomes a fuel that drives you when motivation is low and the world feels heavy. It reminds you that you're not just working for a paycheck, a title, or applause. You're working for impact. And impact requires intention. You don't stumble into a purpose-driven life. You choose it. You choose to be intentional with your time, your energy, and your focus. You stop wasting hours on distractions that don't serve you and start investing in habits that build your future. Purpose doesn't make the work easier, but it makes it meaningful. It turns sacrifice into service. It turns discipline into devotion. And when your actions are guided by purpose, you begin to attract opportunities, people, and outcomes that align with your calling. Living with purpose also sharpens your decision making. You no longer say yes to everything because you understand what deserves your yes. You no longer chase every opportunity because you know which ones align with your mission. That kind of clarity brings peace. It removes the stress of comparison and competition because you're no longer trying to be everything to everyone. You're focused on what you were uniquely created to do. And when you stay in your lane, you move with confidence. Purpose allows you to measure success differently, not by how much you have, but by how much you've grown, how many lives you've touched, and how true you've stayed to yourself. It also gives you resilience. Challenges don't stop a purpose-driven person. They refine them. When setbacks come, you don't quit, you adjust. You don't fold under pressure, you rise under purpose. Because you're not just working for recognition, you're working for legacy. You're building something that lasts beyond you, something that speaks long after you're gone. And that kind of work takes time. That kind of work demands consistency, patience, and vision. But the reward is greater than any shortcut could ever give you. Purpose-driven action also inspires others. When people see you moving with clarity and conviction, it wakes something up inside them. It reminds them that they can do it too. It creates a ripple effect of hope, strength, and belief. You don't need to be loud to be impactful. You just need to be faithful in your purpose and steady in your steps. Every day becomes a seed. Every action becomes a brick in the foundation of your dream. You're not just working, you're building, creating, and living in alignment with who you were meant to be.